Συνεχίζοντας, καλούμε τον κύριο Kr. Krawczyk, Πρόεδρο των Εργοδοτών της Ευρωπαϊκής ΕΟΚΕ, για το χαιρετισμό του.
Good evening, everybody, and I will speak in English, so not my language, but try to make it as also brief as possible. So it is yet another time we come to Greece, and I have to say that what has started some 2 years ago, also with me being elected to be a president of the group, of employers group, we continue, and I have to say that our Greek members, and particularly Dimitris, have been very, very helpful to inviting the group to participate in the continuous effort of national confederation to raise up profile of certain issues that are important for you and for us as well. And I'd like to say that this slowly starts to develop into something that we can hopefully present to the institutions, but also to you in the coming month. But before I say this, let me just briefly, for those who do not know who we are, just one word of introduction. European Economic and Social Committee is a consultative body of the European Union, and in fact, that is especially Group 1, as the only, by the treaty, place where we can influence legislative process as a part of it. So we can elaborate on various issues, whether upon the request of the Commission or the European Parliament or the Council, and we provide opinions of the committee. And the committee is made up of 3 groups. One is employers, and there are some representatives here today. Group 2 is built up of the trade union representatives, and Group 3 are various NGOs. So this committee is supposed to provide opinion of civil society to the work of the Parliament, Commission, and the Council. And that's what we do for more than 60 years, because the ESC has been the first EU institution of this kind and is continuously working for all these years. Now, we have come to Kyllini this year during the presidency of Greece. By the way, congratulations on the presidency. That was, I believe, a very good presidency. And I think even though the circumstances have been very challenging, I think Greece showed commitment and good spirit, good organization to the presidency. I think it's very, very important. And we have discussed already in Kyllini the issues concerning financing of the SMEs, and we know very well how much Greek economy depends on SMEs. I think this fact is very well known to EU, how much Greece depends on SMEs. And as much as in terms of the number of micro enterprises, it's even more, because I think it's up to 96%. While in the EU we are talking about maybe around 92%. So in Greece it's even more this obvious truth that small and medium size is the kind of heart of the matter. If we cannot find a solution for them, I think that will be very difficult for the whole economy anyway. It's also that in Greece the value added to the economy of SMEs is also higher than in other member states, and I think this also needs to be recognized, particularly for Greece, because I believe it will be difficult to push the Greek economy forward decisively without providing SMEs with a proper incentive, proper tooling, especially proper financing for growth. And that is what we discussed in Kyllini this year. And I have to say that when I was leaving Kyllini, it was somewhat feeling of uneasiness, because what I felt at that day is that the gap between the financial sector, particularly, and the SME sector was huge. That's what I could see, I mean, easily from the interventions also. That the representatives of the financial institutions basically took a very, what I would call conservative rather than professional. That means it's not non-professional, but it's a very conservative approach. And I think these kind of tools that they've been discussing at that particular meeting, I think don't provide enough hope that things can easily change. Because to finance SMEs, especially micro business, is something very, very particular. And for the banks to get engaged, for the financial institutions to get engaged, requires either to create strategy which will be towards micro and SMEs, and then of course you need some tools to be effective, or public, state, EU, to provide some additional support, financial support, to take some risk off the banking sector to be able to finance the SME sector. I don't think there is any other better solution. We can have all different titles, projects, but all this boils down to who's going to take the risk, who's going to take the risk of financing SMEs, and particularly micro enterprises. I have been invited by one of the Polish colleagues, by the way, from our group, Jan Klimek, who is at the same time professor of the Warsaw School of Economics, when he's a chair of the unit within that school which is dedicated to the family businesses. We have in our country, in Poland, a big number of family businesses, as much as you do. And it's incredible, believe it or not, but in the 60 years of history of our house, we never did anything on family business. I think that this also speaks something about how things are being seen. It's not that we deny importance of it, but perhaps we take things for granted. And that is also probably not right to do so. So again, I'll come back to this at the end, but certainly we try to regain momentum on this as well. Now, after Kilini, it was quite obvious that we need to do something, and we agreed with President Korkidis to do something. And we have decided as a group and convinced the whole committee to launch an opinion, so-called own initiative opinion, on financing for SMEs. And the rapporteurship was given to your colleague, Dimitris Dimitriadis. In the meantime, we decided that this report will not be only own initiative, but also something that we call information report. That means that we will go to the member states and hopefully also to Greece to check the situation, to check the barriers, to take the very real problems and get them communicated to the institutions. That is what we can do. And that is what we want to do. So hopefully this report should be ready within the next 4 months. And then we together will have a very concrete tool where we can go and discuss issues which will be in that report. The rapporteur is over there, so I cannot talk what will be in the report. You ask him what will be in the report. But I think at least we've tried to provide you with a tool, with an instrument, which will probably go a bit broader, because I think Janos Vertes will also participate and contribute also on behalf of Hungarian delegation, not as a UAP only. But I think that is what we can do and what we want to do to raise the problem to the institutions. Now, apparently the commissioner for the SMEs is coming from my country. I can tell you that this is a very tough commissioner. If you would think that the lady from Poland can be tough, then make it twice tough. That's how she is. And she's very concrete, she's very result-driven. She was responsible for all the structural funds for the last 7 years in the government as a minister, very successful as a minister. And I think we have a good partner to discuss about that kind of issues, because she's extremely pragmatic. So if we can produce a good pragmatic paper showing those problems, we have a chance really to try to influence policy making in the Commission and subsequently with other European institutions. It is also being discussed in our group to launch the work on family business, because I believe this is also very important. And of course, it is somehow a part of SME financing issue, but the family business is something which is even more of particular nature, and is even much more, embedded in the title of our opinion of today. It's a very much community business in a broad sense. Of course, the family business can go as big as you can think of, but the bulk of the family business are the kind of small enterprises which are very much rooted in the local community, and they're absolutely necessary for the growth of the community as such, not only economically but also socially. And we have also to look into that, and I would very much like to welcome you and invite you to this cooperation as well. I think through the Greek members, Irini, Dimitris, and the others, we can put a strong expert team also to look into those issues, because again, that is what we can do. I would also hope, and this is again something maybe for the colleagues from UAPME, but when we finish the work on the opinion, why don't we make a joint conference in Brussels? Why don't we invite the decision makers, policy makers, and we basically convey this message? Whatever will be the outcome of the study, which I hope will be very concrete, precise, and very kind of result-driven. So we need to get some concrete proposals as a part of this work. And think that UAPME is perfectly positioned to talk about issues like that. So one maybe last from my side proposal is the following. The so-called EU 2020 strategy. I know that many of you, as many of us, is a bit tired of various big programs. But the EU 2020 is a very solid, very good strategy for the EU, which needs to be kept alive. Also because, as one of our colleagues from the group, Jos van Iersel, says, because that's the only one we have that is prepared, concrete, finished, and kind of ready to implement. We have now in 2015 a midterm review of this 2020 strategy. It is very, very important that entrepreneurs, including SMEs, put their agenda high in this process. This midterm review is a very natural window of opportunity for everybody to contribute the content which is needed. If we want to improve European financing for the SMEs, what we discussed at the beginning, if we want to improve EU legislation concerning SMEs, we can take this opportunity and raise profile. I think that, and I don't want to sound pessimistic, the opposite, but SMEs are being everywhere in Brussels. It's all about SMEs, it's for the SMEs, it's by the SMEs. When you ask people who actually are SMEs, the more there is a talking about SMEs, the more confusion on their side. I think there is this very unnecessary and worrying gap between what is the reality of doing the business in member states and what is the perception or what is the wishful thinking sometimes of the institutions. And I think that to close that in maybe a more positive way, probably you know that there is a trade and investment agreement being negotiated now between the EU and the United States of America. And the first time ever, the SME chapter is going to be included in the agreement. And I would certainly very much encourage everybody who believes that this is a good agreement, I do believe it is a good agreement, that we give support for this chapter to be included, but also we give our content to what this chapter should include and what it should look like. It is another initiative of our group, which has been approved in the last week, that we will launch our own initiative on SMEs in TTIP, that's Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership. And again, here I would also very much welcome your contribution on this, because for the time being, the SME chapter is more about how to provide enough information to SMEs. But I think it's much more than the information. I think we want to internationalize SMEs, because that is the way for them to grow, provided they can afford it, they have access to markets, they can compete on the fair basis. If we could manage to open a public market in the US, if we could open public procurement, if we could open many others, digital trading, what we discussed, that could provide immense opportunities. So all I want to say is that we try to keep our promise that we gave in Kilini. and we want to come up with results. Of course, that is something that I have to say with a sorrow. Things take time where we work. That is the institutional life. And we cannot do it within a month, 2 or 3. But we've launched a lot of initiatives, opinion on financing SME, opinion on SME in TTIP, now discussing a possibility to do opinion on family business. And if you could help us, support us on operational base through either members or expertise, you are more than welcome to do so, and then we should do the follow-up together. We should go to the institutions, the ones that decide about the policies or implementation, and make sure that they do understand what we have come up with. Last but not least, it's always a pleasure to come to Greece. Thank you very much for invitation. I feel almost like at home because coming here so regularly makes me feeling quite relaxed. And let's keep on doing, because I tell you, when people like us, with people like you, go and talk to the decision makers, policy makers, they do listen to that. But we have to make a way through, and it's not obvious, but it's possible. And I think if we have a set, but not a long one, set of good proposals prepared, we can make a difference. It's up to us. And for this, we are at your disposal. So thank you very much for invitation again. And I hope to see you sometime next year, maybe at the occasion of the report of Dimitris, so we can, say to ourselves what we have managed to do, and perhaps agree some other, work to be done. But that's why we are there. We are there exactly for this kind of things. Thank you very much indeed.